Welcome everyone, Daryl Ecklund here. Here's another first ride video for Motocross Action magazine. In front of us is a 2020 Yamaha YZ450. This bike ranked third in last year's shootout. The majority of our riders really liked the bike. It was a comfortable bike to get on. Everything was ergonomically fit. The suspension was really good. Nothing incredibly wrong. Anybody can jump on this bike and feel comfortable. Now for 2020, the bike may look very similar to the 19 version, but undercover there's a lot of updates. We really studied the bike through pictures and we couldn't really find anything other than the head looked different. But honestly, Yamaha really went to work on this bike. The frame is thinner. The head has lost over a half pound and lower in the cradle. As far as the frame, it's thinner on the frame spars right here, but underneath in the cradle is actually thicker for more rigidity. They updated the front brake caliper to bigger pistons as well as revised disc front and rear. The suspension settings are updated. There's a 2-mode switch like the 250F here. There's just a lot of updates to this bike that you won't normally see. So we're actually really excited. So we're gonna get Travis Preston, who's obviously a past national champion. He's been working for Yamaha as R&D and a bunch of other things for a lot of years now. He's gonna really get into the technical details of this bike, and you can click on the link in the description here for a really in-depth look of all the major changes here. We just glossed over those changes for you to kind of give you a little insight of what this bike's different. But we're gonna get Josh Mosen out there. He's gonna do some ripping. We're gonna get back to you with a full first impression of the 2020 Yamaha YZ450F. All right, what a day. Milestone, they're closed down, nobody's here. They kicked us off the track. We've been here since they opened. This bike is definitely different Yamaha, and I say that in a positive tone. When you usually jump on a Yamaha, that suspension, that Kayaba SS suspension is just really plush and forgiving. And I learned today that it's not just because of the suspension, it's also because of the flex of the chassis. I learned that due to the fact that I was having a little trouble jumping on the 2020 YZ450. I didn't have that initial plushness. It wasn't just as comfortable jumping on the track, and I tried to fish around a little bit. The reason why is due to the more rigid cradle, and this isn't a bad thing. Once I kind of figured that out, I started messing with the settings a little bit, and one click, and I say this a lot, it seems like makes a huge difference. Only 2 clicks softer on rebound, 1 click softer on compression, and a quarter turn out on high speed compression on the shock, and it's a whole different bike. Those tweaks made a significant difference getting that initial plushness back. Now as far as the rigid chassis, it's a really give and take board. It's more give, and I say that because when you just jump on a Yamaha, it just feels so comfortable, and the chassis is flexing a lot. Riding 80% feels like a really good bike, but also it misses the corners. It's not as stable when you start going faster, and it gets sketchy. The stiffer chassis of the 2020 really keeps the bike a lot more stable, and so it doesn't flex as much. With the suspension, you have to loosen it up a little more, which took a little bit to get used to. But overall, we rode the 19 and the 20 back to back. Both are really good bikes, but the 20 is just so more stable. It really has a good feeling in the corners. I raised the clamps up 2 millimeters on the fork, and that really got me even more comfortable in turn-in, and you can really feel some more positive traction coming through the corner. With the 19, it would kind of come in, stand up. I really had to put all my weight on the front end of the 19, even the 20, until I really raised the forks up and went a little softer on compression. So I wasn't fighting the bike coming into the corners. The most significant difference on this bike is really the power. It has a lot of power, just like the 19, but it's more trackable power. The 19, the rear end wants to spin a lot and it's harder to control, where the 20 is more like a tractor. It's there when I need it, almost never have to use the clutch. We went through a plethora of different maps today, and it's hard to find a bad map that we tried. If you have too much power, they can decrease you know, the revs and make it a smoother power. If you want more power, there's more power. And there's so much tunability in this bike. It has such a good platform from the start. There's nothing to complain about with the engine. Great power plant. It's fast. It has power from bottom to mid to top. And if you want to mess with that, you have the Yamaha Power Tuner app to do that. And Travis Preston, he developed another map. There was a TP1 map a couple years ago, then the TP2, now there's a TP3. And he didn't really develop this map for himself. He just took our comments from last year and made it try to make a better all-around map for everyone. And what that did is kind of took the edge off the power a little bit, freed up the chassis by having less engine braking come in the corners and a little more over rev. And we like that map. I think that would be good for vet riders and maybe even intermediate guys. On the Milestone track today, we like the more aggressive maps that we had. Even the stock map is super aggressive. So we played around with everything and really couldn't find a bad setting. I mean, it was really impressive. As far as the bigger pistons, going back from the 19 to 20 bike, the 19 is actually, it just, when you hit the lever, it just wants to lock up. The 20 is just more progressive. And I kind of like more of just the brake right now. And then again, I feel like the rotor, it just lasted longer, it didn't fade. After all day riding, I checked the filter, no dirt got sucked, so that is definitely a positive. Obviously, we have a lot more riding testing to do to see if that happens, but as of right now, that's a huge takeaway for this bike. I have to say that this is definitely a better overall machine. It has a better engine. The suspension is different due to the more rigid chassis. However, with a little bit of fine tuning, the suspension and the stability of the bike is improved. So it's kind of deceiving at first, but once you have some time on it, I feel like the majority of people will like this bike much better. Definitely the power is a lot smoother, easier to ride. There might be a few people on the lower level who just kind of like to ride desert and stuff like that, not a lot of turns, that the older chassis might be better if they're not going very fast and they're just cruising around, because it just has a lot of flex and it's like a big couch. It's like a Cadillac. Where this bike is more of a race bike. We got a lot of things accomplished, and I'm really looking forward to stacking this bike up against the rest of the bikes. So I'm really interested in getting this bike and comparing them all. Look forward to our 2020 450 shootout. We have a lot of work to do. It's not going to happen overnight, just due to the fact that we have a lot of bikes that are a lot different. Look for the full write-up of the 2020 YZ450 in a future issue of Motocross Action magazine. And as always, go to motocrossactionmag.com for all the updates on the 2020 bikes, supercross coverage, motocross coverage. So check it out. Last week, we just tested the 2020 CRF 450 and KX 450. So if you haven't checked those out, go ahead and click on the video thumbnail now. And if you haven't already, click that subscribe button to stay up to date what Motocross Action is up to.